For our final keynote conversation, you'll be hearing from the founder and CEO of Bubble Skincare, Shai Eisenman, and the co-founder, CEO, and formulator at Olipop, Ben Goodwin. They will be interviewed by Groceryshop Senior Vice President of Content, Krystina Gustafson, for a conversation on disrupting CPG, the next generation of consumer brands.
Yeah.
Great.
So proud of us.
Strong start.
Off to a really good start, and I think this is going to be a really fun conversation. It's something I've been looking forward to all week. We just heard from Nick Green, which I think is a great dovetail into this session because they're obviously disrupting from the retail side, also a little bit of CPG, but you guys, in my mind, really represent the next generation of consumer brands. You guys have a lot of similarities in your businesses. You both have a disruptive product that is rooted in science. You are both winning with the consumer focused on health and well-being, and you also took pretty interesting routes to market. So I thought for those folks in the audience who maybe don't know your brands, we could start there. And Ben, let's go to you first. Could you just give a quick 30 seconds on what Olipop is and where your products are sold?
Yeah, sure. 30 seconds, start. So my name is Ben Goodwin. As you heard, Olipop is a new kind of soda. So instead of having 40 grams of sugar, it has 2 to 5 grams of sugar. It has 9 grams of fiber. We actually have a world-class scientific advisory board that wrote a mechanism of action white paper for us, and we've completed clinical trials with Purdue and Baylor College of Medicine, determining the efficacy of the product. We're in about 23,000 stores nationally, Walmart, Target, Kroger, Whole Foods, et cetera, and it's coming along.
So it's a decent footprint.
Yeah.
Shai, same question over to you. Tell us a little bit about Bubble.
So even though consumers today are the most advanced generation that ever existed, when you look at young consumers, there are no options for younger consumers. There are 400 different options for every consumer over the age of 25, every consumer that is looking to spend about $30 per product. But when you look at younger consumers, they're still stuck with the same old brands that we used and our parents used decades ago. So we created Bubble to bring something so much better to the market, to give consumers something healthier, something that they'll actually be excited about, and something that they would want to use. We launched the brand 22 months ago, and we are currently available in 9,000 doors, starting out with Walmart was our first partner, and growing and growing on a monthly basis.
Yeah, you're just kind of like chasing after Ben, making sure you hit that 23,000 mark a little bit earlier than he did. Ben, let's go back to you. There are obviously a ton of healthy beverages out on the market. I mean, sparkling water is like everywhere. Functional beverages at every single checkout. So what gap in the market did you see for Olipop?
So a lot of brands do try to do the kind of where's the white space thing and then build a product, kind of like backfill a product a little bit. That's never really been my approach. It's, I've been chasing microbiome and metabolic health and trying to find the most effective ways to positively impact consumers, and then kind of just had the hubristic, overly simple idea one day of like, a lot of people like soda, and so that'd be like a really good vehicle to put this important, innovation inside of, and I really hit the ground running. I mean, we had like advisors who almost had an aneurysm when they found out we were going after soda because they just thought it was so stupid, because soda was declining at 1% to 2% a year. It's bounced back quite a bit with COVID, but so it's always been about solving human problems for us, and feeling like if you solve a human problem that's legitimate at a high enough level, then the consumers are going to come to you.
Yeah, and I'm curious to hear sort of who your customer is. Is it people that were previously drinking soda? Is it people that is it like I'm drinking a case a day, or who's your shopper?
Yeah, for sure. So what it is, you could see it on the screen. One of the cool stats I actually just learned about 2 days ago is that 80% of our new customers are actually new to the digestive health set. So they're not typically pre-existing healthy beverage consumers. I mean, we obviously get a mix, but they're actually new to the set. There's a little less than 5% over the last 12 months of consumers that started buying Olipop that were buying just soda before have totally switched away from soda and towards Olipop. But even consumers that still purchase soda are now starting to split their basket between traditional soda and Olipop. We over-index the Midwest, though, so we're not you can see with the breakdown, we're actually in more conventional and mass. And we just launched in Costco as well. We did a really large marketing study trying to look at CSD consumers across the country, put them in different buckets. There's about 20% of consumers that are traditional soda consumers that are just, they don't care, they want their soda, maybe they'll come back around once they have a health problem, but for the most part, they're not interested. Then there's another 20% that are just capped off because of our pricing structure, but that leaves about 60% of the country. And that kind of splits them between older groupings that are constantly emotionally exhausted between making long-term healthy decisions and short-term health decisions, and then more of a Gen Z group, which actually just wants to integrate health and an enjoyable experience in their everyday life. And so we really capture that middle 60% well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Shai, you were kind of talking about the fact that there's so many different beauty brands out there. Who's your customer? What are they trading over from? And kind of what are they looking to you uniquely for?
So if you look at the category, actually, in mass skincare, about 80% of the market is being controlled by old school brands. And again, younger consumer today, even though they're the most advanced generation that ever existed, are still using the same old brands that I used and that my mom used. So we really are catered to younger consumer, but I would say our audience is very wide right now. We're available in Walmart and in CVS. And a couple weeks ago, actually, we just saw a review of my mom is, I'm 60 years old, and my mom and I are obsessed with this product. So it's really now relevant for everyone.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And are you seeing a similar thing from a geographical standpoint? You mentioned Walmart. Like, does that kind of skew where your customers live?
So I would say definitely we're very strong in areas that Walmart is one of the strongest retailers at. But the brand started as D2C and actually launched in retail a little bit later, about 7-8 months after launch. So it's very much been something that we have consumers that started out with us online and then switched to purchase us in retail doors.
Yeah, and I want to double click into that a little bit because I think for a very long time, as many folks in this audience know, it sort of felt like the idea of a disruptive brand essentially meant you were just kind of doing a wash, rinse, repeat of the same model, which essentially meant, taking everything in-house, cutting out the middleman, selling direct to consumer. You guys, as you mentioned, started that way, but it was very early on in your journey that you knew you wanted to go into wholesale. And I guess what I'm curious about is again, kind of going back to that stereotype that's out there. We think about sort of that affluent millennial being the target demographic. So to me, when I hear, oh, you intentionally went after mass, it feels a little counterintuitive. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about why.
So if you look at the data, and we're a very data-driven company, we actually created the brand together with, by now it's been over 12,000, but it started out with 6,000 different consumers that are a part of every decision. 80% of consumers actually prefer to shop in stores. And 58% of younger consumers shop for their skincare in big box retailers, and they're not interested in shopping online. When you really think of how a consumer works, like think of you running out of your toothpaste. There's nothing you want less than going on a website, ordering it, pay $5 for shipping, and waiting for 3 days to actually receive the product. And that's exactly the same with face wash and exactly the same with your moisturizer. You want the product now and you want it accessible, and you don't want to spend another $5 on shipping.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear you talk about that because I think that's kind of been a big theme in some ways, talking about how people want convenience these days, but they want that convenience to be a little bit affordable. And Ben, you guys kind of took the opposite approach a little bit, right? You started wholesale, and it actually wasn't until maybe, I think, about a year into your business that you went direct to consumer. So would love to hear about kind of just how your penetration, your approach to that channel has evolved over time.
Yeah, so we started predominantly brick and mortar. We knew we were going to have a D2C platform, but we're shipping cases of liquid around, which is like not typically the best for D2C in certain ways. Then COVID hit, and we hit the red alert button, and we built a pretty robust platform. During kind of peak COVID, we actually were like, our revenue structure was 50-50 D2C and brick and mortar, which for a beverage business, I don't recommend. It's actually not particularly healthy because then you have to start chasing down that D2C revenue, becomes cost prohibitive. We're back down to about 80-20 now, which I feel much better about.
80-20 wholesale,
80-20, 80% brick and mortar and 20% D2C. Yeah, I think what's great about the D2C channel is that obviously it allows you to have a much more direct line of communication with your customers. We've found when we've gone and chatted to our customers, actually most of our consumers find our product on a shelf, and that we have chronic out of stock issues because we're a cold chain product and they can't fit enough in the back of the store and it pulls through. So then we get some customers who are frustrated because they can't get their favorite flavor. So then they might switch onto our website. And about 60% of our D2C revenue is subscription. So they find what they want, and then they get clicked in, and that's super efficient for us. That model works really well, and we're treating the D2C channel now more a little bit in terms of building some depth and rapport and longevity with some of the customers, education, and like awareness driving, but we're not trying to make it this massive profitability driver for our business.
Yeah, and it's interesting for you to say that because I think obviously every single person in the room is thinking exactly what you're saying. Beverages are super big, super bulky. So how do you make the cost structure work there?
Let's charge more money. It's pretty straightforward.
and your subscription buyers, I would imagine, are a little bit different than the customer who's purchasing your products in store at a different price point?
Yeah, we have more high income, I mean, surprise, surprise, we have more high income households purchasing subscription. There's also, like, we see more of a trend towards some of the fruit flavors in store. We see more of a trend towards some of the soda flavors online.
Interesting.
So there's some, like, differences there, but that's kind of the bulk of it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, I want to talk about just kind of the customer acquisition side of things, because I think Nick actually said it quite well. We've sort of seen this evolution from better for you, things that you eat to things that are then going on your face. And I would assume that it's probably a lot easier for Ben to get someone to see an Olipop product by the checkout counter and just say, hey, I'm going to try this. If I don't like it, whatever. It was, X amount of dollars. I never have to buy it again. Skincare is very different. People are very passionate about what goes on their faces. So talk to me about how you are getting consumers to trust your brand.
So consumer today is very different than how it used to be. Like if it used to be that you had to see a brand 3 to 4 times to actually make a purchase decision, now I would say from what we're seeing, it's like 9 to 12 times. And they research, our consumers are so savvy, like they would research us on TikTok, they would research us on YouTube, they will see us in store, they'll see us in store again, and maybe at the 12th time they're gonna see us, they're gonna be like, okay, let's give it a try. They're gonna hear about it from their friends. So we constantly talk about the fact that, first of all, like this is a product that you buy probably about 4 times a year. Like you're not gonna buy your skincare. The average customer in the US buys skincare 3 to 4 times a year. So that's something that obviously is also to consider, because we are a 22 months old brand. They didn't have a lot of opportunities to actually shop for skincare during that period. The second thing that is really important for us is really build our discovery through online. So what we found is, again, the customer has multiple touch points. We built an entire strategy around our sample set, which essentially you can try our sample set for free, just pay for shipping, and then it reduces our acquisition cost by way more than the cost of the sample set itself. And then we retarget you to go and purchase us on retail doors. That really helped us tremendously in terms of getting that barrier to entry and get people to try us more and trust us more, because they have a physical product in their hands to try, and they don't need to just, bet on a product they've seen on shelf that they don't know if it works for them or not.
Right. So it seems like kind of what you're saying, though, is just having the product on shelves in these mass stores is kind of a really solid customer acquisition channel for you. Obviously, though, the downfall of that is you're not getting as much direct first-party data from your consumers online. So how are you kind of making up for that?
It's also something you just need to give up on. Like eventually when you are looking at your model and it's just D2C, it's very easy. You know exactly how your customer is, their age, exactly how they are. But the moment you're getting into 9,000 stores, it's such a different experience. So this is something that we constantly work with qualitative feedback. So we do a lot of outreach to our customers. We do a lot of conversations with them. We have a huge community that we communicate with them through an app of thousands of consumers that we just ask them questions. And we do a lot of promotions also, like, how did you hear about us? How did you start? So there's constant conversations, but it's definitely not as kind of easy as if you're D2C only, and it's also a decision that you need to make for scale.
Yeah, no, I think that was super insightful. The other thing that I think has been really unique about you guys is just how thoughtful you've been about how you show up on shelves. And so I know we flashed a product image before, but it's very fun, right? Like if I'm looking at that box, I'm not necessarily thinking, hey, this is going to make me feel healthier. I mean, you could probably say the same thing about Olipop, but Shai, talk to me a little bit about how you are making sure that you are showing up on the shelves with your retail partners.
So this was a very long process for us, again, even though we're only 22 months old. But we launched D2C only and controlled the entire experience. And then we closed the deal with Walmart about 3 months after launch, and it was a process of thinking, how are we going to show up on shelf looking beautiful and look thoughtful and have the educational piece on the shelf? And I would say that Walmart has been an amazing partner in that as well. And we've also constantly like looking to ensure that it stays this way, and that, you know, even though we're in so many stores right now, we're ensuring that it stays organized and constantly thinking through, how do we educate on shelf? How do we explain the product? How do we educate on our secondary packaging? We have the entire routine laid out on the secondary packaging, like explaining how our 4 steps routine works, and just trying to explain to consumers about the brand as much as possible, while still making sure it looks beautiful and it shows the brand story.
Yeah, and I know in the past you've also talked a little bit about just where which aisle it shows up into, so not being part of the sort of fun emerging brand side of things, but making sure you're showing up in the derm aisle. Well, Ben, I want to switch back to you a little bit, because, you know, I sort of challenged Shai on the acquisition side of things. You mentioned your subscription business earlier, but I would think, at least, you know, once she's kind of got someone sucked into the brand, it might be a little bit easier once they've tried it, they're happy, for her to keep them. So how do you think about retention outside of subscription?
So this is one of those areas where front-loading a lot of effort into the product has been super, super useful, right? So I've been a product developer for 17 years. I formulated the product. It actually, I mean, we can't ever publish them because it's like medical claims, but we just get flooded with emails of people actually dealing with very serious health issues using our product. And so we have an absurdly high retention rate for beverage, like something in the mid-40s, which is like kind of bizarre. And like, there is a certain, in CPG, especially when you're talking about like food and beverage, there is a certain like just raw, does the product work or not, which you can't like make up. So one of the things that I think that is kind of by design, but also kind of like a lucky thing, is we really have like a discovery waterfall, and I think that builds a lot of resonance with consumers over time, because they see the package, like, oh, it's cute, and it's cool, that's good looking flavor, good looking package. They try it. This is going to sound narcissistic, but we get feedback that being like, I'm shocked by how good this tastes for what it is. Then they're like checking the macros, and then they're going to the website, and so and then they're seeing the science. So like, there's this step where the deeper they dig, the more they can get actually integrated and actually believe in what they're doing. And it gets to the point where like, it just integrates into their life, and we get those customers long term. So yeah.
Does it seem like to you people are just kind of like picking up the can, maybe not even realizing what it is at first, and then like once they kind of investigate it, drink it, they're learning more? Is that kind of how it works? Because it seems like you're not going out to market saying, hey, try this, it's going to help your digestive health. It seems like it's more, hey, here's a fun new kind of take on soda.
Yeah, well, I mean, so it does say on the front of the pack, supports digestive health, right? And we are in legally good territory. We could actually probably make 10 times the claims, which we don't, because there's a lot of superfluous claim making in the industry. I don't know if you noticed, but yeah, most customers, the experience they have is like, oh, that looks tasty. Oh, it is tasty. Oh my God, low sugar. And I think it also does something for my digestive health. That's the majority of the interactions, right? But there's also, you know, we have this experience both kind of on the influencer side, but we also have it on the customer side, where, you know, like most groups have the like group nutritionists, right? So it's the person who does do all the detail, and so, or like we're on the Ritual podcast, or we're in these different, where we get to these pockets where someone really does know what their research, and they go deep, and then they become credibility generators for the group at large. So I think that is meaningful, but the majority of customers aren't going that deep on what we have to offer. But if they do decide to go that deep, like, it's all there.
And if they don't want to, they can just have Camila Cabello tell them how good it is.
That's right.
All right, well, we are down to our last couple of minutes. So I think what would be really helpful for the audience is just to kind of hear what's next for you guys. And so, Shai, I'll start with you.
So we actually just announced our launch in Walmart Canada. So it's our first international expansion, and there's so much more to go. And we just launched our first OTC product, which we're really excited about, and we have a lot more coming next year. So definitely a lot of exciting things in the horizon.
Yeah, you've accomplished quite a bit in just 22 months. Ben, how about you?
So we're launching a massive overhaul to our brand platform next year, which I'm very, very excited about. A ton of work and research has gone into it. The kind of spearhead of it is being driven by our relationship with Camila Cabello, which is going to be pretty massive, but there's some other pretty high caliber celebrities kind of behind her. And then new flavors and more innovation, more doors.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, maybe next year we'll get Camilla up here with you
Fine.
guys, and
I'd be happy.
we can perform. No,
Happy to have
awesome.
that, yeah.
Well, that was really educational. Really appreciate you guys taking the time, and thank you all for joining us.
Okay.
Music? No?